Last Tuesday, my uncle accidentally sent me a video that destroyed my family in 47 seconds. The video was simple. My father sitting in his home office, whiskey in hand, laughing into his phone during what he thought was a private call with my uncle. 30 years busting my ass at that company, and for what? He said, taking a long sip. When you've got a cash cow daughter who just made her second million, why would I keep working? I quit 3 weeks ago. Told Victoria I got fired in the restructuring. She bought it immediately. His laugh was cruel, satisfied. Already got her paying the mortgage, the car notes. Rachel's playing her part perfectly too, crying about depression, expensive therapist visits 3 times a week. Victoria's so worried about her mother's mental health, she hands over money without even asking for receipts. The video ended with my father raising his glass toward the camera. To family businesses that actually pay off. The message from my uncle that followed was frantic. Vic, that wasn't meant for you. Your dad grabbed my phone to show me something and must have hit send. I'm so sorry. Call me. I didn't call. I sat in my downtown loft. The same loft I'd bought 2 years ago after my consulting firm landed its first Fortune 500 client, and felt something cold and calculating replace the shock. My parents had always been proud of my success, or so I thought. Dad had worked in middle management at a manufacturing company, decent salary, solid benefits. When he'd called me 6 weeks ago, voice shaking, telling me the company was downsizing and he'd lost his job at 58 years old, I'd felt my heart break for him. I don't know how we'll make it, Victoria, he'd said, and I'd heard Mom crying in the background. 30 years of loyalty and they just cut me loose. The severance won't cover the mortgage for more than 2 months. I'd immediately wired him $20,000. Consider it an early inheritance, I'd told him. I've got it, Dad. You raised me right, taught me the value of hard work. Now let me help while you find something new. The something new never materialized. Every week brought a new excuse. Too old for the market, overqualified, underqualified, the economy. Meanwhile, Mom's mental health supposedly deteriorated. She'd always been anxious, but suddenly she was having panic attacks, couldn't leave the house, needed a private therapist that insurance wouldn't cover at $300 per session, 3 times weekly. I'd handed over my credit card information without hesitation. For 6 weeks, I'd been the devoted daughter, wiring money for bills, groceries, Mom's therapy, Dad's job search wardrobe. They'd become almost cheerful lately, I realize now. Dad suggesting family dinners at expensive restaurants, just to keep Mom's spirits up. Mom suddenly needing a spa day, doctor's orders for stress relief. And I'd paid for everything, grateful they were showing signs of improvement, never questioning the recovery that came with a price tag. The video sat on my phone like a bomb. I watched it 4 more times, studying my father's face, the casual cruelty in his voice, the way he'd weaponized my love for them. They'd turned my success into their retirement plan, my concern into their cash machine. The daughter they'd raised to be independent and strong had become, in their eyes, nothing more than an ATM with emotional buttons they knew exactly how to push. What they didn't know, what nobody knew except my business partner Marcus and my lawyer, was that 3 months ago, I'd merged my consulting firm with a private equity group. The deal had made me not just comfortable, but genuinely wealthy. $8 million sat in various accounts, invested, growing. I'd been planning to surprise my parents with a full mortgage payoff for their 30th anniversary next month, maybe set up a trust fund for their retirement. That plan died with my father's laughter on that video. I opened my laptop and began pulling up files I'd been casually collecting without realizing why. Bank statements showing my transfers to them, text chains of their requests and my responses, the name of Mom's therapist, Dr. Patricia Wendell, whose office I'd called once to verify the appointment times Mom had given me. The receptionist had seemed confused by my questions, putting me on hold for an unusually long time before confirming the appointments. I'd thought nothing of it then. Now I pulled up the Professional Licensing Board's website and searched for Dr. Patricia Wendell. The profile that appeared made my blood freeze, then boil. Dr. Wendell was licensed and practicing, but her specialty was adolescent behavioral issues, not adult anxiety or depression. Her office was in a pediatric medical building. The phone number Mom had given me was different from the one listed on the official site. I called the legitimate number. Dr. Wendell's office, this is Sarah. Hi, I'm calling to verify appointments for Rachel Hayes. She's been seeing the doctor 3 times weekly for the past 6 weeks. Silence. Then, I'm sorry, we don't have any patient by that name in our system. Dr. Wendell exclusively treats patients ages 5 to 17. Is there perhaps another provider you're thinking of? I thanked her and hung up. Mom had never seen a therapist. The $9,000 I'd transferred for therapy had gone straight into their pockets, funding whatever lifestyle they'd decided my money should buy them. My phone buzzed. Dad, sweetheart, hate to ask, but the dishwasher just died. Could you spot us about $800 for a new one? We'll pay you back as soon as I land something. I stared at the message, then at the video still paused on my screen. My father's satisfied smile frozen mid-laugh. They thought I was their cash cow. They thought I was too trusting, too guilty about my success, too eager to help to ever question their needs. They had no idea what they'd actually created. A daughter who'd built a multi-million-dollar business by reading people, identifying weaknesses, and executing strategies that left competitors wondering what had hit them. My consulting firm specialized in corporate restructuring. I made my fortune by dismantling failing systems and rebuilding them stronger. I was very, very good at taking things apart. It was time to apply those skills to a family business. I didn't respond to Dad's dishwasher text. Instead, I called my uncle. Vic, I'm so sorry. He started immediately, his voice heavy with guilt. I had no idea they were doing this to you. Your dad's been bragging about it for weeks, but I thought he was just joking around. You know how he exaggerates when he drinks. When I saw that video accidentally sent to you, I realized, how long have you known he quit his job? Silence. Then quietly. He told me the day he did it, said he was tired of answering to people half his age, that you were making enough for all of you now. I told him it was wrong, that you worked hard for your money, but he said you'd offered to help, that you wanted to support them. He made it sound like you'd suggested the whole arrangement. And Mom's depression? Another pause. Vic, your mom's been shopping online constantly. Designer handbags, jewelry, day spa packages. She posts about it on Facebook. Her retail therapy, she calls it. I thought you knew. I thought maybe you'd told them to enjoy themselves while you could afford it. My jaw clenched. Can you do something for me without telling them? Anything. I feel sick about this whole thing. Send me everything. Every conversation, every text. Every time Dad bragged about his plan. I need documentation with dates and times. You're going to confront them? Eventually. But not until I have everything I need. After we hung up, I opened a new folder on my laptop and labeled it Family Business Restructuring. Then I started making calls. First, to my lawyer, Jeremy Chen, who'd handled my business merger. I need you to research something. If someone fraudulently claims to need money for medical expenses, specifically therapy, and the provider doesn't exist or never treated them, what are the legal implications? Jeremy was quiet for a moment. We're talking about fraud, potentially elder abuse if there's a dependency relationship. Are you being targeted? The opposite. I'm the one who was funding the fake therapy. For whom? My mother. My father told me she needed treatment. I've been paying $300 per session, 3 times weekly, for 6 weeks. The therapist treats children, not adults, and has no record of my mother as a patient. That's over $16,000 in fraudulent claims. Victoria, if you can prove intent to deceive, this could be criminal fraud. Who received the money? I transferred it to my father's account to handle the medical bills. And you have documentation of his claims about the therapy being necessary? Text messages, voicemails, everything? Don't delete anything. Forward it all to me. I want to review your options. My next call was to the company where Dad had supposedly been fired. I'd met his former boss, Jim Patterson, several times at company events. I called the main line and asked for him directly. Jim, this is Victoria Hayes, David Hayes' daughter. Victoria, how's your dad doing? We were so sorry to lose him. 30 years is a hell of a run, but when someone's ready to retire, you can't blame them. My hand tightened on the phone. Retire? I thought he was laid off in a restructuring. Jim laughed. Is that what he told you? No. David came in one morning about 2 months ago and said he was done. Said he'd been thinking about it for a while, that his daughter was doing well and he wanted to spend time traveling with Rachel before they got too old. We threw him a retirement party, gave him his full pension package. He seemed excited about it, honestly. Said something about finally having time to enjoy life. Did he seem financially stressed, worried about money? Not at all. He was talking about RV trips, cruises, maybe buying a vacation condo. He said you'd done well for yourself and were happy to help them enjoy their golden years. Jim paused. Is everything okay, Victoria? Did I say something wrong? No, everything's fine. I must have misunderstood. Thanks, Jim. After hanging up, I sat back and processed. Dad had retired voluntarily, with a full pension. He'd told his employer I was supporting their retirement lifestyle. He'd then come to me claiming financial devastation. and I'd believed every word. My phone buzzed with a text from Uncle Mike, a long chain of screenshots. I scrolled through conversations from the past 2 months. Dad bragging about the retirement plan finally kicking in. Mom sending photos of her shopping hauls with captions like, "Victoria's success paying off." Dad's message to Mike 3 weeks ago. Told her the dishwasher broke. She's sending 800. This is easier than I thought. The guilt about making more than us works like a charm. Each message was a knife, but I kept my face neutral, my thoughts organized. Emotion was useful in business only when controlled, channeled into strategy. Right now, I needed to be the consultant, not the daughter. I pulled up my parents' social media profiles, which I rarely checked. Mom's Facebook was a revelation. Photos of restaurant meals, new clothes with tags visible, a girls' weekend at a luxury spa that I'd apparently funded thinking she was too depressed to leave the house. Her posts were public, visible to hundreds of friends and family members. She'd been documenting her spending spree while claiming mental collapse. Dad's profile was more subtle, but equally damning. Check-ins at golf courses during hours he was supposedly at job interviews. Photos from a weekend casino trip I'd never heard about. A comment on someone's post about retirement. Living the dream now that my successful daughters got my back. They weren't even trying to hide it. They thought I'd never look, never question, never connect the dots. To them, I was the naive child who'd believe anything they said, too busy with my own success to notice their lies. My phone rang. Mom. I let it go to voicemail, then played the message. "Honey, I had a really hard session with Dr. Wendell today. She thinks I need to increase to daily appointments for a while. I know it's expensive, but Dad and I are just so worried about my progress. Could you call me?" The performance was flawless. The trembling voice, the apologetic tone, the emphasis on Dad's concern. If I hadn't known the truth, I would have immediately called back and authorized the increased payments. That's what made it so calculated. They knew exactly which emotional buttons to push, exactly how to position their requests as my idea rather than their demands. I saved the voicemail and added it to the growing file. Then I did something they'd never expect. I opened my banking app and scheduled another transfer to their account, $5,000 with a note. "For Mom's increased therapy and whatever else you need. I love you both." Because predators grow confident when the prey seems unaware, and confident predators make mistakes. The $5,000 cleared their account in 30 minutes. Within an hour, I had the bank records showing their spending. $2,000 at a luxury furniture store, $1,500 at an electronics retailer, $800 at a high-end steakhouse, the rest scattered across shopping websites. Not a penny went to anything resembling medical care or job search expenses. I documented everything while maintaining my role as the devoted daughter. When Mom called to thank me, I was warm and concerned. "Of course, Mom. Your health is the priority. Is Dr. Wendell helping?" "Oh yes. She's wonderful, so understanding. She thinks with daily sessions for the next month, I could really turn a corner." "That's great news. Whatever you need, I'm here." After we hung up, I calculated the cost of their daily therapy scheme, $9,000 for the month. They were accelerating, growing greedier. Good. Greed made people careless. I spent the next 2 weeks playing my part perfectly. Every request was met with immediate approval. Dad's car repairs, funded. Mom's new anxiety medication, paid for. Their overdue property tax, covered. Each transaction was documented, categorized, and added to the file that now included over 40 pages of evidence. What they didn't know was that I'd hired a private investigator, someone my lawyer recommended who specialized in financial fraud cases. Marcus Riley had been following their activities for 10 days, and his reports made my careful documentation look amateur by comparison. Mom's therapy appointments were actually lunch dates with her sister, shopping trips, and nail salon visits. The investigator had photos of her laughing over wine at restaurants during her supposed sessions. Dad's job interviews were golf games, sports bar visits, and one particularly bold day trip to a casino 3 hours away where he'd lost $600. Money I'd sent him for professional networking events. They'd even discussed their plans where Marcus could record them. Outside a restaurant, waiting for their table. "I still can't believe how easy this is," Mom had said, checking her new designer purse. "I thought she'd ask questions by now." "Why would she?" Dad replied. "We raised her to be respectful, to help family. Now that's finally paying off for us. She makes in a month what I made in a year. She doesn't even miss it." The audio quality was crystal clear. But the most damaging evidence came from their own carelessness. Mom had posted a TikTok video, which she apparently thought I didn't know about, showing off her haul from a shopping trip. Bags spread across their bed. "When your daughter becomes successful and you can finally live the life you deserve," she'd captioned it, with hashtags like, "She blessed life," "She'd proud mom," "She'd living well." The video had 12,000 views. Multiple comments asked if she was okay, referencing her depression that she'd mentioned in earlier posts. Her response: "Retail therapy is the best therapy." They'd documented their own fraud for social media validation. Jeremy called me on day 16 of my surveillance operation. "Victoria, I've reviewed everything your investigator sent over. You have an ironclad case for fraud, potentially theft by deception. The amount exceeds $50,000 now, which puts this in felony territory in your state. What do you want to do?" I want them to understand what they've done, really understand it. Criminal charges would accomplish that too quick. I want them to feel what I felt. The betrayal, the realization, the complete destruction of trust. But I want them to do it to themselves. "I'm listening." I outlined my plan. Jeremy was quiet for a long moment after I finished. "It's legal," he finally said. "Harsh, but legal. They'll never recover financially or socially from this." Good. They wanted to profit from me. Let's show them what that actually costs. The next day, I called my parents for a family dinner at their house. "I have some exciting news to share," I told them. "Something that affects all of us." Mom's voice was bright with artificial enthusiasm. "Oh, how wonderful! I'm feeling so much better lately. The therapy is really working. What time should we expect you?" 6 o'clock. "And Mom? This might be overwhelming, so maybe skip the therapy session that day. I want you to be present for this." "Of course, sweetheart. We wouldn't miss it." I arrived at their house that Saturday with a leather portfolio and a smile. They'd decorated since I'd last visited. New furniture, a massive television, artwork that looked expensive because it was. My money, displayed like trophies. "Victoria!" Mom hugged me, wearing a dress I'd seen her post about online 3 days ago, $700 at Nordstrom. "You look wonderful. Doesn't she look wonderful, David?" Dad embraced me, his watch glinting, a Rolex I didn't recognize. "Our successful girl. Come in, come in. Your mother made pot roast, your favorite." The dining table was set with new china, crystal wine glasses I'd never seen before. They'd created a perfect stage for my announcement, expecting good news they could capitalize on even further. We sat down to dinner and they were unusually attentive, asking about my business, my plans, anything that might hint at the news I was bringing. I let them wonder, making small talk, complimenting Mom's cooking, asking Dad about his job search. "Actually, something promising came through this week," he lied smoothly. "Interview on Monday. Tech company. They're interested in my experience. Might finally be getting back on my feet." "That's wonderful, Dad. I'm so glad things are turning around." After dinner, over coffee, I finally opened my portfolio. "So, my news. You both know the company merge I was working on 3 months ago?" They leaned forward, practically vibrating with interest. It went through, very successfully. I pulled out a document showing the summary of my compensation. "I walked away with $8 million, Mom gasped. Dad's eyes went wide, then calculating. $8 million? Victoria, that's incredible. We're so proud of you. Thank you. It's been overwhelming, honestly. All that money, and I've been thinking about what to do with it, how to invest it properly, who to trust." I paused, meeting both their eyes. It made me really evaluate my priorities. Family, trust, honesty. Those are the things that matter most, right? "Absolutely," Dad said firmly. "Family is everything. We've always taught you that." "You did, which is why I wanted to share this with you in person." I pulled out another document, sliding it across the table. "I've been doing some evaluating. This is a complete accounting of every dollar I've transferred to you in the past 2 months." Mom's smile faltered slightly. Dad glanced at the document, then back at me. "We're grateful for every bit of help you've given us during this difficult time." $53,400, I said calmly, for a man who voluntarily retired with a full pension and a woman who never saw a therapist. The room went silent, except for the ticking of their new expensive clock. Dad's face drained of color. Mom's hands started trembling, but this time it wasn't an act. Dad began, but I held up my hand. "Jim Patterson sends his regards. He was confused about why I thought you'd been fired since you'd retired voluntarily and seemed so happy about it at your party. He mentioned how you talked about RV trips and vacation condos." I turned to Mom. Dr. Wendell's office confirmed they've never treated anyone named Rachel Hayes. Apparently, she only works with children. Mom opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. Victoria, I can explain. Can you explain the TikTok video showing off your shopping hauls while claiming retail therapy is the best therapy? That one has quite a few views now. I pulled out my phone and played it for them. Mom's voice, cheerful and proud, echoed through their dining room. When your daughter becomes successful and you can finally live the life you deserve. Dad found his voice. Anger replacing shock. You've been spying on us? Investigating your own parents? No, Dad. You've been documenting yourselves. Social media posts, public Facebook updates, restaurant check-ins during your supposed job interviews. You weren't even discreet. I laid out photos from the investigator. Dad at the golf course, Mom at the spa, both of them at the casino. You wanted to show off your lifestyle. You just forgot I might eventually see it. Now wait a minute. Dad stood, his face reddening. So we spent some of the money on ourselves. We raised you, sacrificed for you. We deserve to enjoy your success. You deserve what you earned. I cut him off, my voice ice cold. Which is nothing from me. You didn't ask for help. You lied about a medical crisis, a job loss, a financial emergency. You manipulated my love for you into a retirement fund. Mom started crying, but these were real tears now, panicked and desperate. We were going to tell you eventually. We've struggled for so long and you were doing so well, and we thought you thought I was your cash cow. I heard Dad say it. I played the video from Uncle Mike, watching their faces as they heard Dad's words. When you've got a cash cow daughter who just made her second million, why would I keep working? Dad sat down heavily, the fight draining out of him. Mike sent you that? That goddamn... Accidentally, but I'm grateful he did. It opened my eyes to who you really are. The silence was crushing. Mom sobbed into her hands. Dad stared at the table, his jaw working. Here's what happens next, I said, pulling out a formal document. This is a repayment agreement. You will return every dollar you fraudulently obtained from me, $53,400. You have 60 days. We don't have that kind of money, Mom wailed. Victoria, please. Then sell the things you bought with my money. The furniture, the jewelry, the clothes, the electronics, all of it. I slid another document across the table. This is a detailed inventory of every purchase made with funds I transferred to you, compiled by a private investigator. Everything has a resale value attached. Dad's hands shook as he picked up the pages. You can't be serious. These are our belongings. Bought with money obtained through fraud. My attorney is prepared to file criminal charges. Theft by deception, fraud, possibly elder abuse since you exploited our family relationship. $50,000 puts this in felony territory. You'd be looking at prison time. Prison? Mom's voice cracked. You'd send your own parents to prison? You were willing to bleed your own daughter dry. Why wouldn't I be willing to hold you accountable? I leaned forward. But I'm giving you an option. Repay everything in 60 days, sign an agreement acknowledging the fraud, and I won't pursue criminal charges. And if we can't pay it back in 60 days? Dad asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Then I file charges and let the legal system handle it. You'll repay it through court-ordered restitution while serving your sentence. Your choice. I stood up, gathering my documents. One more thing. Every member of our family will receive a copy of the investigator's report. Uncle Mike, Aunt Sarah, all your friends who saw Mom's social media posts about her blessed life. They deserve to know the truth about where that money came from and how you got it. You can't, Mom gasped. The humiliation. Everyone will know. Everyone will know you're thieves who preyed on your own daughter. Yes. I headed for the door, then paused. You wanted to profit from my success. This is what that actually costs. I walked out of their house and didn't look back, even when I heard Mom's wailing follow me to my car. The next morning, I sent the complete investigator's report to every member of our extended family, along with a brief note. I wanted you all to understand why I'll no longer be in contact with my parents. The attached documents explain everything. My phone exploded with calls and messages. Uncle Mike called immediately. Jesus, Vic, I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize the amount, the planning. I'm so sorry. Aunt Sarah texted, Your mother has some nerve posting about being blessed while stealing from you. I'm disgusted. Cousins, family friends, people I hadn't heard from in years, all reaching out with shock and support. The family's social network, the same network my parents had used to show off their lifestyle, turned into a wildfire of gossip and condemnation. Mom's Facebook went dark within hours. Dad's LinkedIn disappeared. They'd wanted recognition for their lifestyle. Now they had it, along with the truth of how they'd funded it. 3 days later, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Victoria. Dad's voice was hollow. Your mother's having a breakdown. A real one this time. She can't face anyone. The shame, the gossip. Everyone knows what we did. Good. Now she understands what consequences feel like. We're sorry, we made a terrible mistake. We just wanted to retire on my money without asking, to exploit my love, to treat me like an ATM. My voice was surgical, precise. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. What do you want from us? Exactly what I said. $53,400 in 60 days, or I press charges. We can't raise that much that fast. Please, Victoria, be reasonable. Was it reasonable to fake a mental health crisis? Was it reasonable to lie about being fired? Was it reasonable to call me your cash cow while planning how to squeeze me for more? I paused. You have 57 days left. I suggest you start selling. I hung up. The first week after my ultimatum, I heard nothing from my parents. Social media told the story instead. Mom's sister posted about family betrayals and disappointing behavior, clearly taking my side. Dad's golfing buddies commented on his sudden absence from the course. Their church group, where they had been regular attendees, probably funded by my money, issued a public statement about supporting members through difficult times, which was essentially a polite way of acknowledging the scandal. Uncle Mike called me on day 8. They're starting to sell things. I stopped by yesterday to check on them, and the house looks half empty. The new TV's gone, most of the furniture, your mom's jewelry. She looks like she aged 10 years. How much have they raised? Maybe 20,000 so far. They're panicking about making the deadline. He hesitated. Vic, I know what they did was horrible, but they're still your parents. Is there any way that I'd let them off the hook? No, they made their choice when they decided to treat me like an ATM. Now they live with it. On day 15, my lawyer received an email from a legal aid attorney representing my parents. The letter requested an extension of the repayment deadline and a reduction of the amount owed, citing emotional distress and unexpected hardship. Jeremy called me, reading portions aloud. They claim the investigation caused your mother to develop genuine anxiety requiring actual medical care, which they can't afford while repaying you. They're asking for a payment plan, $500 a month for the next 8 years. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. 8 years at $500 a month is only $48,000. They're still trying to cheat me out of money. Tell their lawyer no. Full amount, 60 days, or I file charges. Victoria, I should warn you. If you press charges, there's a possibility the judge might order restitution at a lower monthly amount anyway. We might end up in the same place, but with a criminal trial in between. Then we have a criminal trial. I want the felony conviction on record. I want them to be labeled what they are. Thieves. Understood. I'll respond accordingly. The deadline pressure intensified their desperation. On day 23, Dad showed up at my office building. Security called before letting him up, and I told them to send him away. He waited in the lobby for 3 hours before finally leaving. That night, he sent me an email. Victoria, I'm begging you. Your mother is genuinely suffering now. The medication alone is costing us hundreds a month. Real medication this time for real anxiety and depression. We've sold almost everything we bought with your money, but we're still short. The house needs repairs we can't afford. The car is breaking down. We're eating through our savings. Please, can we work out a payment arrangement? I know we don't deserve your mercy, but I'm asking for it anyway. Dad, I didn't respond. Mercy was for people who showed remorse before getting caught, not after. Day 35 brought a different approach. Mom called from a number I didn't recognize, probably a friend's phone. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Victoria, please don't hang up. Her voice was raw from crying, genuinely broken this time. I need to tell you that I understand now. What we did to you, the betrayal, I feel it now. Every former friend who won't talk to me, every family member who looks at me with disgust, every stranger at the grocery store who recognizes me from your cousin's Facebook post. I understand what it feels like to be exposed, humiliated, treated as less than human. Good. That's exactly what you deserve. I know. I do know that. But Victoria, we're your parents. We raised you, loved you. You loved my money. There's a difference. That's not— She broke down sobbing. Please. We'll pay every penny, I swear it. Just give us more time. We're trying so hard, but 60 days isn't enough. You had 60 days to enjoy spending my money. Now you have the same amount of time to return it. Seems fair to me. You've become so cold. This isn't the daughter we raised. No, I'm exactly the daughter you raised. Smart enough to see through lies. Strong enough to enforce consequences. You just never expected me to use those traits on you. I hung up while she was still crying. On day 45, Jeremy called with news. They've raised $41,000. They're liquidating their retirement accounts early, taking massive tax penalties. They're selling your dad's truck. They're doing everything they can, but they're going to be short. How short? They're estimating they can get to $48,000 by the deadline, maybe $50,000 if they sell more personal items. They can't make the full amount. Then they'll face criminal charges. Victoria. Jeremy's voice carried a note of concern I rarely heard from him. I'm your lawyer, not your therapist. But I have to ask. Is this about justice or revenge? It's about consequences. They taught me that actions have consequences. I'm just making sure they learn their own lesson. Day 59 arrived. I received a certified check for $51,200, along with a handwritten note. This is everything we have. We're $200 short. Our retirement is gone. Our savings are depleted. We've sold everything of value we own. We have nothing left to give you. We're begging you to accept this and let us move on with our lives. Please. I looked at the check, then at the note. They were $200 short. A rounding error in my business, devastating to them. I called Jeremy. They're short. File the criminal complaint. Are you sure? $2,000 short after they've clearly destroyed themselves trying to comply. A judge might not look favorably on you pressing charges. They didn't care about destroying me financially or emotionally. File it. 2 days later, the police showed up at my parents' house with arrest warrants for theft by deception and fraud. The local news covered it. Retired couple arrested for defrauding daughter of over $50,000. Their mugshots appeared online. Dad looking 20 years older than his age, mom's eyes vacant and defeated. The arraignment was quick. Their legal aid attorney tried to argue that they'd attempted to make restitution, that the amount remaining was minimal, that they'd suffered enough through public humiliation and financial ruin. The prosecutor, a woman I'd met with personally and walked through every detail of the case, painted a different picture. These defendants engaged in a calculated, months-long scheme to defraud their own daughter. They fabricated medical emergencies, falsified job loss, and exploited familial bonds for financial gain. The defendant, Rachel Hayes, created elaborate performances of mental illness while documenting her lavish lifestyle on social media. The defendant, David Hayes, lied to his former employer, his daughter, and his family about his circumstances while calling his daughter a cash cow he could milk for retirement funds. This wasn't a desperate act. It was premeditated fraud. The judge set bail at $10,000 each, money they no longer had. They'd spend the time until trial in county jail. Uncle Mike called me that night. They're in jail, Vic. Your parents are in jail because of you. They're in jail because of them, I corrected. Because of what they did, what they chose to do. Their lives are destroyed. Even if they get a plea deal, they'll be convicted felons. They'll lose their pension rights. Their Social Security benefits will be impacted. They'll never financially recover. Is this really what you want? It's what they earned. He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know if I can support this anymore. You've gone too far. Then don't support it, but don't expect me to feel guilty for holding thieves accountable, even if they share my DNA. The trial was scheduled for 3 months later. But 2 weeks before the date, the prosecutor called me. Your parents want to take a plea deal. They'll plead guilty to theft by deception, agree to pay full restitution including the remaining $200, and accept felony probation with community service. No jail time beyond what they've already served, but the conviction stays on their record permanently. What are they offering for restitution timeline? Whatever the court deems reasonable. Probably $200 a month for the remaining balance, maybe less given their financial situation. It could take years. I thought about it. They'd spent 3 weeks in county jail, lost their retirement savings, sold everything of value they owned, and would now carry felony convictions for the rest of their lives. Their reputations were destroyed. Their relationships with extended family were fractured beyond repair. They'd gone from comfortable retirement to financial ruin and criminal records. Accept the plea, I told her, but I want to deliver a victim impact statement before sentencing. On the day of their plea hearing, I sat in the courtroom and watched them shuffle in wearing county jail jumpsuits. Dad had lost at least 20 pounds, his skin grayish and sagging. Mom's hair had gone almost entirely gray, and she moved like a woman decades older than her 60 years. They didn't look at me. After they entered their guilty pleas, the judge asked if I wanted to make a statement. I stood, walked to the podium, and looked directly at them for the first time since the arrest. Your Honor, I'd like to explain what my parents' crime cost me beyond the monetary value. They didn't just steal my money, they stole my trust, my sense of family, my ability to believe that love exists without conditions or ulterior motives. For 2 months, I genuinely believed my father had lost his livelihood, and my mother was suffering from mental illness. I lost sleep worrying about them. I worked harder to make more money to support them. I felt guilty about my success because I thought it came at the cost of their stability. Mom started crying silently. Dad's jaw clenched, but he kept his eyes on the floor. When I discovered the truth, they didn't apologize. They made excuses. They claimed they deserved my money because they'd raised me, as if parenthood is an investment that should pay dividends. They showed remorse only when caught, only when facing consequences. Even in their attempts at restitution, they tried to negotiate, to cheat me out of the full amount, to find ways to pay less than what they stole. I paused, making sure my voice remained steady. I don't expect them to understand what they've done. I don't expect them to genuinely apologize or change. But I want this court to understand that their crime wasn't impulsive or desperate. It was calculated, sustained, and showed a level of betrayal that goes beyond simple theft. They taught me that family meant everything, then proved that to them, family meant nothing compared to money. The judge nodded slowly. Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Your statement has been noted for the record. Sentencing came swiftly. 5 years felony probation, 500 hours of community service each, mandatory financial counseling, and restitution of the remaining $200 at $100 per month. They were also prohibited from contacting me directly for the duration of their probation, unless I initiated the contact. As they were let out of the courtroom, Mom looked back at me one final time. Her expression held no anger, no defiance, just broken acceptance of what her choices had cost her. I felt nothing watching them leave. Not satisfaction, not guilt, not sadness. Just a quiet certainty that I'd done exactly what needed to be done. 6 months later, I received the first restitution check for $100, along with a form letter from their probation officer confirming payment. 22 months of payments remained. I deposited the check and filed the documentation, knowing that for nearly 2 more years, they'd be reminded monthly of their crime and its consequences. My business thrived. Without the emotional drain of managing their fabricated crises, I had the energy to pursue new ventures. I hired 3 additional consultants and expanded into 2 new markets. The $8 million from the merger grew through careful investments, and my firm's reputation for ruthlessly efficient restructuring attracted high-value clients who appreciated my no-nonsense approach to problem-solving. I never heard from my parents directly, though Uncle Mike occasionally provided updates I didn't ask for. They'd moved to a small apartment in a cheaper town, Dad working part-time at a hardware store, Mom doing data entry from home. Their social media remained dark. Their friends had moved on. They existed in the kind of anonymous obscurity people fall into after public scandal. Neither pitied nor persecuted. Simply forgotten by everyone, except those legally required to remember. I built a good life without them. I surrounded myself with people who valued honesty, who understood that love isn't transactional, who proved through actions rather than words that they could be trusted. Tyler, my business partner Marcus, my lawyer Jeremy. These became my chosen family. The people who showed up without expecting payment or return on investment. Sometimes people asked if I regretted being so harsh with my parents, if I wished I'd shown more mercy, if family reconciliation was possible. The answer was always the same. They'd made their choices, and I'd made mine. They'd chosen to treat me as a resource to be exploited. I'd chosen to treat them as criminals to be prosecuted. Neither of us got to revise those choices just because we didn't like the outcomes. The final restitution payment arrived on schedule, 22 months after sentencing. With it came a handwritten note from my mother, brief and carefully worded to avoid violating the no-contact order. The court-ordered restitution is complete. We understand we can never undo what we've done or rebuild what we've destroyed. We hope you found peace and happiness in your life. We will not contact you again. I kept the note with all the other documentation, not as a memento, but as evidence. Evidence that consequences, when properly applied, teach lessons that apologies never could. Evidence that family ties don't exempt anyone from accountability. Evidence that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be victimized, even by the people who raised you. I framed the final restitution check and hung it in my office, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. A reminder that trust, once weaponized, can never be restored. A reminder that I had the strength to choose justice over sentiment. A reminder that the daughter they'd tried to exploit had become someone far more formidable than they'd ever imagined. My parents had wanted to profit from my success. In the end, my success had cost them everything: their reputation, their retirement, their relationships, their freedom, and any hope of reconciliation with the daughter they'd betrayed. They'd called me their cash cow. I'd shown them what happens when you try to slaughter something that's smarter, stronger, and far more strategic than you ever anticipated. The business I built afterward became my real legacy. Not just the money or the growth, but the principles I enforced with every client, every deal, every relationship. Transparency over manipulation, accountability over excuses, consequences over second chances. Companies hired me specifically because I had a reputation for identifying fraud, dismantling corrupt systems, and rebuilding structures based on integrity rather than exploitation. Ironically, my parents' betrayal had made me better at my job. I could spot deception in financial reports the way I'd learned to spot it in loving text messages that hid greedy motives. I could identify manipulation in corporate hierarchies the way I'd learned to identify it in family dynamics. Their crime had inadvertently given me a superpower in the business world: the ability to see through any performance, no matter how convincing. 3 years after the final restitution payment, I attended a charity gala for a nonprofit I'd been supporting, an organization that provided financial literacy education to young adults. During the silent auction, I felt someone's eyes on me and turned to see my father standing across the room, older and smaller than I remembered, wearing what was clearly a borrowed suit that didn't quite fit. He was there as part of his community service, volunteers serving drinks and clearing tables. Our eyes met for a brief moment. I saw recognition, shame, something that might have been longing. He opened his mouth as if to speak, remembered the no-contact order that had technically expired, then closed it again and looked away. I turned back to my conversation without acknowledging him further. There was nothing to say, no healing conversation to be had, no redemption arc where we'd embrace and forgive. That chapter of my life had closed the moment I'd watched his video explaining how to exploit his cash cow daughter. Everything since had been denouement, the natural consequences of choices made, played out to their logical conclusion. My date that evening, a surgeon named David I'd been seeing for 6 months, noticed the exchange. "Old acquaintance?" he asked casually. "Old mistake," I replied. "One I'll never repeat." As we left the gala that night, I didn't look back at the man serving drinks in a borrowed suit. He'd become what he'd always been: a stranger who happened to share my DNA, someone whose choices had led him exactly where he'd chosen to go, someone who'd confused familial obligation with unlimited access to someone else's resources. The last I heard, my parents were still together, still living in that small apartment, still working their modest jobs to survive. Mom's actual therapist, the real one she'd needed after everything collapsed, had helped her understand that her choices had been driven by decades of financial insecurity and misguided entitlement. Dad had apparently come to terms with the reality that his retirement plan had cost him the actual retirement he could have enjoyed. They'd learned their lesson, according to Uncle Mike. They'd become different people, humbler, more honest, genuinely remorseful, not just about getting caught, but about what they'd done. None of that mattered to me. Redemption is a gift the redeemed give themselves, not something the wronged are obligated to acknowledge or celebrate. They could become saints for all I cared. It wouldn't change the fact that when they'd had the choice between loving their daughter and exploiting her, they'd chosen exploitation. That choice, and everything that followed, would always be the defining truth of our relationship. I'd built an empire on the ashes of their betrayal. I'd created a life where trust was earned through consistent action, where family was defined by choice rather than blood, where success was measured not by what I could give others, but by what I'd achieved for myself. They'd wanted a cash cow. Instead, they'd created something far more dangerous: a woman who understood that sometimes the greatest act of self-love is refusing to be anyone's victim, even when that someone is family, especially when that someone is family. Years later, when people ask if I ever regret how things turned out with my parents, I tell them the truth. I regret that it happened. I regret that they made the choices they made. I regret that I lost the fantasy of loving parents I thought I had, but I don't regret holding them accountable. I don't regret enforcing consequences. I don't regret choosing my own well-being over their comfort, because in the end, they'd taught me the most valuable lesson of all: that you can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. even if those others are the people who raised you, especially if those people are willing to watch you burn while warming their hands on the flames. My parents had tried to make me their retirement plan. Instead, they'd funded my understanding of what real strength looks like. The strength to walk away, the strength to demand justice, the strength to build a life where betrayal is met with consequences rather than forgiveness. They'd called me their cash cow. I'd shown them what happens when the cow turns out to be a dragon.